This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the September 11th Technical Advisory Committee meeting. It's 9:30. Call this meeting to order. Ryan is busy today, so he likes to, I don't know if he's busy or if he just doesn't want to be here, but he likes me to lead these meetings apparently this year. Is there any, item number 2 is opportunity for public comment. Do we have any public comments or anyone online that wants to comment?
We have 3 members online.
Any public comments in the room? All right, we'll move to item number 3. And before I get to that, I'd just like to welcome Mayor Henry, who's our new Small Rural Advisory Committee member and appointed by Policy Board back in July. July. Welcome. All right, item number 3 is an action item regarding approval of minutes from the July 10, 2024 meeting. If there's any comments, those are in your packet to review. Someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. And a second motion from Jason and a second from Daryl. All in favor of approving the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you all. Item number 4 is a discussion and action item regarding the KTMPO TAC and Policy Board meeting schedule for calendar year 2025 and also the rest of calendar year 2024. We're changing up a little bit how we approve this and going to calendar years to fiscal years so that we're giving enough advanced scheduling notice instead of approving the October meeting in September, which is what we're doing this year. As you all know, typically TAC meets on the first Wednesdays and Policy Board on the third Wednesdays. Sometimes we have staff have meetings that we're required to go to, and also city staff have meetings, so we do shift as necessary. This is all included in your packet, but there is a calendar, and what Uriah and I have discussed and are proposing for this December and then also August, November, and December in future years is to not have to cancel those meetings or not schedule meetings, since there's a lot of, well, 1, those are usually lighter meeting agenda months, and then 2, we have there's a high travel time, and so we're proposing to not have meetings in August, November, and December, and also this December. If something does come up in that time that we do need a meeting, then the chair or Ryan can call a special meeting in those months, but that is the proposal for the schedule. I think the only changes is in January, we're moving the TAC meeting a week to the second Wednesday, so it doesn't conflict with New Year's. And then in September of next year, the Policy Board meeting will probably need to be shifted 1 week up or back due to the ImprovementPlan annual conference. Here's a little summary and those highlighted dates, and we'll include the November ones on there too. Any questions for staff?
Is it going to cause a problem if something does come up and we have to call a meeting in August? Big DOT money or stimulus stuff that we've seen in the past that we have to act on.
Yeah, no, we can call a special meeting. I think that's what Uriah has suggested, and for Policy Board, the chair would call it, and I think for TAC, Uriah could call it as the director. We also know, especially for our city folks know y'all are busy, and August is the end of budget season, so figured that's another good reason for that month for us to not have a meeting that month regularly. If there are no other questions and everyone is good with the recommended schedule proposed, with the caveat of November and December not having meetings this year and next year, we'll take a motion on this item.
So I have a question. So you're showing November having a meeting, but you're saying taking it off now?
Yeah, I was talking with you, Ryan, yesterday, and we made a last minute. We'll have the right schedule on the policy board agenda, but it would show no meeting in November and December for 2025.
And for 2024?
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions, concerns?
I'll make a motion to accept the TAC and possible schedule as posted. Second.
Mayor, we have a motion from Mayor Henry and a second from Mr. Deckman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Thank you all. Again, this will be on the policy board's agenda next week with the November date highlighted there. Item number 5 is a discussion and action item regarding recommended approval of resolution 2024-07 to adopt CTCOG's Title VI plan as MPO's Title VI plan. We currently have a Title VI plan. I think it's based off of Hill Countries, and there's a CTCOG one that's kind of been used by the MPO. It was first adopted back in 2014 and then again in March 2018. I think the regulation is we're supposed to update this every 3 years, and during COVID, we missed a year, so we're trying to get back on track. The CTCOG plan was recently updated and approved by TxDOT as part of our transit. We received some money for transit planning separately from MPO, and so staff's thought and recommendation is, instead of rewriting a plan that just says KTMPO instead of CTCOG, since CTCOG is the fiscal agent, we would adopt CTCOG's Title VI plan for the MPO. The personnel and the processes are all the same. It doesn't make sense to duplicate efforts. The CTCOG Executive Committee did adopt the Title VI plan at their meeting on July 25th. There's a resolution in your packet for adoption, and just lays out what Title VI is and why we have this, and that we're adopting CTCOG's plan as the MPO plan. Any questions or comments from committee?
I did have one question. So on section 6, you're saying you're having a Title VI coordinator. And some of the responsibilities of one of them is doing the interviews, or checking in on, anytime we have the funds, one of the capital projects, you're interviewing contractors and getting the verifications for, I guess would be the percentage participation. Would that include any of the projects that we would have? So if we get some of our projects on our grants and we have a requirement for minority participation, would it be the CTCOG's, this coordinator be coming out, doing those interviews, getting those verifications for us?
I don't believe so. I think I'll have to double check, but I would think that requirement is just for contracts that CTCOG is entering into, or KTMPO itself is entering into, and not contracts that we're providing funding for.
Yeah, so I think one of the lines should say for where you're providing, for projects you are providing funding for.
Okay.
So I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Yeah, We can check in on that and if we need to make a clarification or a change, we can do that. Don't want to be causing any undue extra administrative burden for anybody.
I wouldn't keep that person busy. Yeah, it's item 5. So,
Okay.
on that section 6.
Well, and we'll check that before policy board next week and give them an update. Any other
At that
questions?
point, it's just maybe an observation, because this came up with a project that Temple had. We had to show that our contractor had gone through the DBE process, because we were receiving technical funds. In that case, the city had to show tech stuff that we followed the right steps. So in that case, the contract for the funds was between the city and the state, even though it came through the MPI.
Yeah, that's, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because we had some confusion on our part about, when that should have been done, and we were kind of right at the end of it. Yeah, it could have been easier if we had maybe looked at it, and I'm saying on the city side, if we had been prepared to shoot that snap. So probably it wouldn't be your title, wouldn't be your quarter, it's just to be the director, so even though it passed through. But it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
We might learn something valuable.
Victor, Brian, do y'all have any weigh in or anything you know about Title 6? And, okay,
No, sorry.
yeah, that's fine. Just asking if you've run into that before. Anything else? If not, I think we can, there's a motion, a second approval or recommending approval of this resolution.
Move to approve.
Second. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Daryl. Have a motion and a second. All in favor of recommending approval of resolution number 2024-07, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. All right. Thank you all. We'll move on to item number 6, which is another discussion and action item regarding recommending approval of resolution 2024-08 proclaiming October 2024 as Pedestrian Safety Month. And I'm going to pass this one off to Anita over there and to give the staff report.
Thank you so much, James. The National Highway Traffic Administration has declared October as Pedestrian Safety Month. And James pulled data from Text.Chris data. And in our region between 2018 and 2022, KTMPO region had fatal and serious injury crashes involving pedestrians that have doubled, with 51 total fatality total crashes and 80 serious injury crashes over that 5-year period. And also October is International Walk to School Month. And actually on October 2nd and October 9th, it's Walk and Roll to School Day. Now, given the data and what we're looking at for our region, we really would like to proclaim October as Pedestrian Safety Month, and so that we can have a shared responsibility on our roadways and a commitment from all road users and policymakers to ensure that our streets are safe for all ages and all abilities. Does anyone have any questions?
Anita, can you speak a little bit to, I mean, in the past, we've
Oh, yes.
approved a resolution for Walk to School, and why we're switching to pedestrian safety?
Yes, sir. In the past, we have recognized Walk to School Day and Walk and Roll to School Day during the month of October. But we do recognize that not all of our schools have a safe sidewalk, so promoting safety would be our highest priority. And so we're going to leverage that Pedestrian Safety Month in light of what we know about our region. And, anytime that there is a safe way for children to walk to school and walk and bike to school, we want to promote that. And we'll be supporting every city that does that. But overall, we'd like to support the Pedestrian Safety Month and reduce the casualties and make everyone aware. Does anyone have any questions?
I'd just like to add, and I'll be sharing more about the tempo meeting and the staff report at the end, but last week, Thursday and Friday was a tempo meeting, and the Texas A&M Transportation Institute has been helping all MPOs statewide with some safety planning, and they were given a presentation and showed that pedestrians is one of the top, pedestrian fatalities in statewide is one of the top issues. It's a significant portion, even more so than like bicyclists, for example. So I don't have that slide from that presentation, but we're going to try and get it and send it out afterward with some of the data they have for other MPOs. Really think this is important, and I know we've talked about safety for a while now. Just want to continue pushing that as the MPO, and that we do support safety specifically for pedestrians. If there's nothing else, I have a motion.
Motion approved.
Second. Thanks. I have a motion from Andrew and a second from Bobby. All in favor of recommending approval of resolution 2024-08, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you all. Rolling along here. Item number 7 is a discussion action item regarding recommending approval of the updated September 2024 SS4A Project Listing. As y'all know, we've been working on a Safe Streets and Roads for All comprehensive safety action plan with Killeen-Temple for the past over a year now, and we're moving along towards the end. Back in March and April, we presented an initial project identification list, and a subset of those projects were selected for assistance from Killeen-Temple with developing grant application materials, some for the HSIP program, and then some for SS4A implementation. Killeen-Temple over this past summer, and since then we've met with everybody in the region and added more projects. So there's 109 projects in the list now, and some additional identified HSIP and SS4A grant assistance projects. Now, this presentation is going to be shared next week at Policy Board, and I'm just going to skip to the new projects that were identified. These 3 were the ones for the SS4A. It's US 281 in Hamilton County, US 84 in Goldthwaite, and the intersection of Taylor's Valley Road at FM 93. And then, in addition to these 4 HSIP projects that were identified in March, we have these 4 new projects, 1 in Rockdale, 1 in Cameron, and then 2 in the Pasco County. I know none of these are in the KTMPO area, but this is a CTCOG plan. These projects and the updated listing are going to go to Policy Board and also Executive Committee later this month for their approval, so that Killeen-Temple can start the process of coordinating with these cities on getting those grant application materials together. That spreadsheet with all the projects listed out, anything in that spreadsheet when the plan is finalized would be eligible for funding. Oh, I missed a couple. There's 2 more, 1 in Parker Heights and 1 in Killeen for HSIP. Apologies about that. The action for this item is to consider recommending approval of the updated listing. We do seek approval prior to Killeen-Temple helping out, just because it's great. They're helping with cities applying for grant funding. Want to make sure everyone is okay with those. Any questions or comments? That spreadsheet is quite long that was sent out.
James, if I could, I just kind of want to fill the committee in on Coyle County, was part of this as a joint piece of the overall regional plan, and we've got our development planning done ahead of where the region is, and actually submitted an application for implementation funding for round 2 of FY 2024 funding. And if you recall, there's going to be 3 iterations for FY 2024. So we applied for 2022, and we received notification yesterday from USDOT that we did not get funded. And I want to kind of give you a little background, and I will forward the email because it's got a link and some good base data that I think that the region needs to take some analysis or conduct some analysis, as well as Killeen-Temple, as we are developing these regional projects. But not I didn't look so much at the planning and developmental projects and funding piece of things, but for implementation grants. And again, this is a national program, so there were over 350. I believe the number was 354, but don't quote me on that. But there were over 350 implementation applications nationwide. USDOT funded 70 of the 350 plus applications. Out of that, the entire state of Texas received 5 approvals for their applications. Now, I don't know how many specific to the state of Texas that were submitted, but only 5 were funded. Out of those 5, 2 of them came out of McLennan County. The city of Belmead received funding, and it was multi-million dollars, as well as the city of Robinson receiving multi-million dollar grant funding. To put that in just a little bit of a comparison, because I do believe that with the SS4A program overall, there is some political decisions being made at a very, very high level. So as I stated, the entire state of Texas received 5 approvals. The state of California received 11, and almost 3 times the total funding of what the state of Texas received. So I'm not trying to sway you one way or another, but I think that needs to go into consideration as far as, as we spend time and effort, and especially with our vendor, Killeen-Temple, and trying to give them some insight as to, how we want to best prioritize projects to get our, best opportunity to get them funded. As we look forward to, the next round, and then into 2025 as well. And I apologize that I didn't get that sent to the COG prior to today, but we will get that so you can take a look at it. There's some good links. There's, I think, some very obvious connect the dots, and then I think there's maybe some that are a little bit more subtle. But just wanted to make you all aware of kind of where the program is as far as funding. And I don't remember the total that was funded out of everything, but I think it was pressing or close to $1 billion overall. And that's planning, demonstration projects, as well as implementation for this round. I believe the funding total was about $1 billion. So didn't mean to talk too much because I get long-winded, but thought it was relevant that you understood kind of where the overall federal government project is, the program is. So.
Thanks, Judge. I'm glad you mentioned priority because the list that was sent out, that is unprioritized, and we weren't working on a prioritized list that will be included in the final plan. And that's not to say if you're at the bottom, you can't be funded, but we did request that they have some sort of priority ranking and a scoring system for that, so that even as the MPO, when we're looking at projects we're selecting and if there's overlap, we can take that into consideration. There's some ranking, and I think it's important that there's a ranking of projects, like Judge was saying that we're looking at and focusing on.
One quick alibi, I will tell you this, as we delve into the ranking piece of this, it was very evident that economically disadvantaged communities were heavily weighted. I mean, heavily weighted. I mean, percentages on some of these projects where, they were talking about they're economically disadvantaged. I know that's not the exact terminology that they used, but it was like 70% or plus. I mean, it was a very, very, and that's what I said, there's some of this, you'll see it when you look at these reports. I mean, it's just glaringly obvious where they were targeting some specific areas, within their criteria of selection. So again, I would, I'm going to recommend to the policy board that gives some guidance to Killeen-Temple as we're looking at this project list. I mean, it could be the number one in the region, but if some of these, criteria don't fit that, I don't believe it's really in our best interest to have our vendor, to pay Killeen-Temple, to develop this application for something that's ultimately not going to get selected. So again, not trying to beat the dead horse, but I do think that there should be, at various levels within CTCOG and KTMPO, some analysis on this most recent round of funding, so that when we do prioritize these projects, we're trying to meet some of the unwritten criteria of USDOT, Federal Highway, so that we are positioning ourselves in the best possible manner to be awarded those funds. That's how I'm sorry. That's it.
Thanks, Judge. Any other comments or questions?
The TAC just opened the call for this year's HSIP. I think I shared the presentation with y'all and with Dan Mouse and Killeen-Temple. Yeah. If we can get some of those projects ready, and that was part of the plan, was if we can get them in this year's HSIP call. It's open now, closes mid-December. I was trying to look up, find the precise date. Well, it's listening to the judge.
I have some notes on that for the staff reports.
One thing that came out of that, there's a new ASHTO mapping tool called ASHTO Aware, similar to Chris, with a mapping interface that'll let you filter. Played with it a little bit, don't claim to be an expert yet, but it just may be another tool if you're trying to do some safety analysis to identify where your hot spots, your problematic intersections may be. It is something that was initially designed for DOTs. So they had some issues during the webinar. Oh yeah, just here's the link, log in, and everybody said, I can't, it's blocked. They opened it up if you're a local government, that just, there's a person's request. If you're interested, just hit me up, I'll put you in contact with them. Like I said, I don't know a lot about it yet, I haven't played with it too much, but it's out there. If it's useful, then we should use it. You got it.
Yes. Gene Gene Roberts with Fort Cavazos says he's tried the link multiple times and he cannot get into the meeting either.
This meeting.
I'm thinking it's the link that.
The link that Jason was just talking about?
Yes.
Is that meeting or?
There was a webinar last week.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying if you want to get access to this ASHTO tool, I've got access, so I can put you in touch with the person that sent me the login.
We can, if it's the ASHTO thing, we can get some information to Gene about that. Any other comments, questions about the updated project listing and the proposed additional selections for SS4A and HSIP? These are the three for SS4A, one in Hamilton, one in Goldthwaite, and one in Belton. Then there's 6 more for HSIP, Rockdale, Cameron, 2 in Lampasas, and 1 in Harker Heights, and 1 in Killeen. Nothing. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thanks, Bobby. Have a
Second.
motion? Henry? Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the recommended approval of the updated SS4A project listing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Item number 8 is a discussion item regarding amendments to the FY25 Transportation Improvement Plan and the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan project listing. There's a whole bunch of projects. I'm not going to read them all. I'm going to pass it off to Callie to give the staff report for this item.
Right, so yeah, we've got our quarterly amendment coming up for the TIP, and we have 11 additional projects that we're gonna be adding. And those are ones that were selected back in May during that as the project scenario funding 7. And then we've got 3 additional ones that are having amendments, and those are amendments to funding and implemented wet dates. And then we always update the MTP project listing to match the TIP, so that's the other side of that. Additionally, in May, we selected 5 projects to be funded by category 2, and 4 of those projects were not listed in the 2025 UTP, so they're not able to be added or amended during this quarterly amendment. But as soon as they are updated within the UTP, we'll be adding those as well in the next amendment, whenever that falls. And then we have our plan adoption schedule, and we'll have those meetings scheduled sometime within that time frame. And if anybody wants to have a public meeting hosted in a certain area or something, you can speak with Anita, and she'd be happy to help set that up for you.
Thanks, Callie. All of the tip sheets and some maps and that updated project listing, that was all sent out and then included in your packet. Any questions for staff?
I have a change.
Changes, yes.
As far as let dates for C50-04D. We want to change that date to 2027. And then also C50-01, change that date to 2026.
Yeah, if you have, thank you, Bobby. Any other changes or concerns or mistakes? I know we tried to send these out beforehand, but there's a lot of projects, so we want to make sure we're getting the right information.
So I'm looking at the additional 4 projects that you're saying we can't do in this step because they're not in the UTP. I agree with that, except that the one, the Port Cavazos access routes, with the new updated funding that it's going to get, since it's not going to be getting TAC 2,
Okay.
I think we should be able to get it still. Okay. So it'll be a TAC 3 local funding as far as that's concerned.
Victor, you read my feeble mind. I was gonna ask about that. Was that being held up? Because it's a different funding source, so.
Now it's not going to be TAC 2. But these other projects, yeah, they're going to have to go through the next FY26 cycle. Maybe they just start. You're on.
But that's a huge difference of 3,000, where it's like 3,000 versus 30-something.
Someone trying to make a payment, Anita?
I don't think so.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
Category 10, CR, Williams Road sidewalks in Toledo. FM 2484 to West Williams Road, construct 88 accessible sidewalks adjacent they're building a new high school over there and football stadium. Is this something that you can even take on some of the cost of that? I know in our subdivision agreements and development agreements, that kind of thing, a lot of times we require that they put in sidewalks, that sort of thing. I don't know if that would be a cost saving measure for us. We require the school district to put in sidewalks in certain areas. That's something I want to have a conversation with the superintendent and their board. I need to.
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue with that if you find another source of funding. I mean, this is the approved funding, but we can always decrease it or increase it or shift, if you find some other funding and want to extend the limits to something else, as long as we're working with Victor and Breton and their local government team and getting it in the timeline, that's no issue. It does, any changes in limits or funding, decrease or increase, does usually require a formal amendment. So, and those are, it takes some time for that, and so just, I guess, be aware of that as you're having conversations. As earlier we can do those, the better.
Appreciate it.
And all for this, we're going to have to talk about our Veterans Project. With the AFA, we have that's going to have to reflect any local costs that are added. It's not that you're being penalized, it's just they need to track that. So I don't know if you have the AFA in place already. I don't know. Yeah, check the staff.
Kind of playing games at this point with between us and the county, and they want to annex in, they want to wait until after certain inspections are done. And, they want to go some, like by county rule in some areas and village rules in other areas. So trying to work through all that, to figure out what it is we need to do. So, I'll look into that.
Any other comments or questions?
James or Victor jump in on this, but so we're looking in because I think we've got an action associated with this. So under the C45-01 work devices access ramps, are we at a position now that, I mean, we can add that to the tip at this point? I mean,
Yeah, we can make the change, and this is just a discussion item. Before, we've done approval of public involvement in our latest VEP, we changed that, and it's more of a notice. And as long as we have everything correct for the public involvement, which starts September 23rd, then this will come back in October for approval of the amendments following public engagement. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and on that, so for timeline purposes, usually we have to submit these. It's the November revision, but we have to submit by the end, late October is usually when the period opens up, and then it generally takes TxDOT, the STIP team, and FHWA, their review is 2 months, so I would not expect any of this to be fully approved until late December, early January. That's the timeline for most of this. Does that answer your question, Judge?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? All right, well, with that, since that's just a discussion item, then we're going to move on to item number 9, which is also a discussion item regarding update on the FY 2025 Unified Transportation Program funding. So the UTP is TxDOT's 10-year plan, and it doesn't list, it lists a lot of projects, mainly the large ones that are funded with categories 2, 4, and 12 that the districts are working on. There may be a extended project listing in there somewhere, but I think the bigger impact for the NPO is it forecasts dollars out for those 10 years, and that's what we base our estimated funding off of. There's 12 categories that TxDOT has, and there's 4 that we mainly concern ourselves with, which is category 2, category 7, category 9, and then category 10, CR, which is the carbon reduction program that's new. this is in your packet, but this is a 4-year or 5-year history of historical funding levels. You can see the Cat 2 has fluctuated. Some of that was mostly due to COVID in 2021. And Category 7 has stayed relatively stable. Category 9 jumped in 2023, and that was because of the passage of the IIJA, and then the carbon reduction is new funding, and there's a big bulk because it started in 2022, but it wasn't available to us until 2024. And then this next slide is in our tip window, the forecasted funding that we're using and we're looking at when we're adding projects and amending projects. I know the Category 2 that changes every year. I don't know, Victor, if you want to touch on that, but the other 3 are fairly stable over the 4 years.
Category 2, I mean, it's typically pretty stable. I think this year, we got different parts of 2 new MPOs that came to us. And so that Category 2 pool of funding, I'm just making up numbers here, but in the past it was shared between, say, 10 MPOs, now it's 12 MPOs, but the amount didn't change, so Cat 2 went down. But hopefully they'll make some adjustments to that. Cycle.
Yeah, this is informational. I know with the new UTP every year, Uriah gave a presentation update and just let everybody know kind of the numbers that we're looking at. It's an important part of our planning process, this UTP. Any questions? All right, item number 10 is a discussion item regarding public input received through August 2024. Anita, would you like to touch on the comments that we've received?
Sure. They were mostly general comments, and they've all been forwarded to the proper jurisdiction. There was one comment that had gained significant momentum on social media, and it had to do with Chaparral Road. After responding to this gentleman's question multiple times, we did invite him to call our office to seek further and additional clarification, which I don't think that he did. But we're always open to sitting down and speaking with anyone that comments publicly so that they can get a better understanding of the process.
Thanks, Anita.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding our public comments?
He answers, I know.
Moving on, item number 11 is director's update. Listed here is the upcoming meetings. We do have this afternoon the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee at 2:30. Then I guess those November meetings for TAC and Policy Board might not be happening. We'll change that after Policy Board takes action next week. The other meeting I want to highlight is October 22nd. We have a Freight Advisory Committee meeting. That also, I think that may be at 2 p.m. in the afternoon instead of 9:30 like our other meetings. Other updates, I mentioned earlier that the TEMPO September 2024 meeting was last week. That was right after the TxDOT planning conference, which a couple MPO staff were at, and lots of TxDOT folks. There were some good presentations. At TEMPO, there was a discussion. I think the most significant discussion was a change in the funding formula for planning dollars for MPOs, with the addition of a new MPO and also trying to adjust the face value. So I don't know, there's a recommended path, but not an end path. Where I will probably touch on this more at Policy Board. The proposed updates did have a hit of $25,000 to KTMPO for 1 year. with the increases that we're generally seeing, we don't expect that hit to continue, and we'd be staying at normal levels. And we do have quite a bit of carryover to cover that loss, so there's no major concern from the MPO for our planning dollars. I mentioned the safety, that they touched on that. And there was a lot of other good information from our partners. Anita last week attended the Texas Trails and Active Transportation Conference in Austin also, and I'll let her give an update on that conference.
Thank you, James. It was very insightful. It was like a water hose of really forward-thinking information regarding Texas trails, pedestrian and bike safety. One of the, I'm going to just share 4 points that I really walked away with that I thought were just, to me, they were beautiful. The idea that any road that's going through a subdivision should be good for an 8-year-old to 80-year-old, because that's who lives in our subdivisions. I thought, that really resonated with me. Also, TTI, they have a bike ped count loaner program. So if you're looking to see how many people walk through a certain area or bike through a certain area, they have that loaner program. And I'm going to be researching this. If y'all have never heard of that loaner program, I'm going to do some research and see what we can do to make that available to our region, if anyone's interested. Also, one of the big takeaways is when you're working on plans and you're building bike lanes, they really recommend that we think about a bike network over a bike lane. A bike network would really increase connectivity between our cities, and they really have encouraged thinking beyond our boundaries here, the KTMPO regional boundaries, is to be able to connect with other counties outside of our boundaries. And actually, TxDOT, I went to a presentation, and they're working with different districts to do a bike ped connectivity throughout the state of Texas. And we're not on the schedule yet, but they have a schedule for, they've already done 2 districts, and then in 2025 to 26, they're going to be working on 4 more. Those are the outside boundaries of the state of Texas. And so one of the ways that we can become prepared for when they come to us is to write an active transportation master plan. And that would really help us to get on their radar to be thinking about multi-jurisdictional trails that cross our boundaries. And so today at VPAC, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about that and what we can do as the MPO to begin writing that plan. Y'all have any questions?
Thanks, Anita.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple other things. The HSIP project hall, like Jason mentioned, that did just open. That is through the district, and I guess there's a contact Victor, right? And we go for where to submit those. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the 10% local match is being covered by TxDOT this year for construction using TDCs. At least that's what I was.
I haven't heard that, so I can't confirm.
Okay. It might be on that slide.
And they mentioned the G-match in the presentation.
I knew about the G-match, but I know that's like a case by case. It's not every one. So, yeah, I'm not for sure about the 10%.
Okay. Possibility of the 10% match might be covered by transportation development credits, and then
I guess that depends on if there's any available, if your community qualifies for it. It's not universal.
yeah, that's possible. I think the deadline is the middle of December, but based on previous calls, the local government deadline is mid-November. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And Kimberly Horn's very aware of this for the SS4A and the HSIP stuff. And then second to last thing, the statewide 2025 Transportation Alternatives Project Clause is expected to open in January. It's open to all governments. I believe there's some restrictions on our MPO area since we have our own transportation alternatives funding. You can't submit to both calls, but if you have a different project, you can submit that to the statewide call. If you're looking for more information, you can send out a link to where they're proposed in that.
I'll visit with you, and if I'm wrong, there's something happening. In the past, you can't submit to the TA if it's being considered for MTP.
Correct.
So you're saying if it's already in the MTP, it's disqualified?
I think if it's in our MTP project listing, I'll double check, but
Unfunded?
maybe not unfunded, but I don't think we have any unfunded this year. I think when we did our review, we have, well, if it's in the list and it's being considered, I'll double check that and clarify. But I know that you can't have concurrent, submit for concurrent project requests. Last thing, our air quality update for August. Claims dropping a little bit. It's been high this summer in the Temple. And our average is 67 for Temple over the last 3 years. Year to date for 2024 and 70 for Killeen. So we're again right at that boundary edge, unfortunately. And that concludes director update, unless there's any other comments or questions. Item number 12 is member comments. Anyone like to share anything?
Yeah, I wanted to just touch base, give everybody a quick update on the first week of the microtransit launch. I don't know if anybody read the Temple Telegram paper this past week. I think that was on our first day, relating to our first day. That was an unfortunate newspaper article, but it goes to show, don't believe everything you read, because we've got some really good statistics going on. But one failure on the first day, and this was related to that, the article was related to that. We had a massive amount of phone calls coming in. At one point on the first day, we were getting over 1,000 calls per hour, and we just couldn't keep up with them. We had 3 people in our office, and we had 4 other people contracted out for that, and we still couldn't keep up with it. So part of that was legitimate, just from a pure failure on the communication side. We did not expect that kind of a rush of phone calls. Since January, we've been doing travel training and trying to educate people. That newspaper article, it was really about one person, and I would consider them a disgruntled, elderly, fixed route rider, historic fixed route rider that just doesn't want change. They went to a stop that we've been hammering for since January, that all the fixed route stops are going to be closed. They went to a fixed route stop anyway and sat there literally under the sign that said the stop is closed for an hour and a half. They didn't read the sign. But other than that, things are actually going pretty well. I took a look at all the statistics yesterday morning, which represents the first 5 days of service. We started on Tuesday. Actually, as of yesterday morning, we had about 7,000, a little over 7,000 passenger trips in the first 5 days. You times that out times 52 weeks, that puts you at about 364,000, which is about 80,000 more than what we were doing the week before under the fixed route system. So if you were to trend out that 7,000, which is what we're at right now, we will do more in the first 12 months than what we have been doing for the past 10 years or so, since 14. So that part's good. The average wait time was about 15 minutes. The average ride time was about 14 minutes. These are a lot better numbers than waiting for an hour and riding for an hour. Average trip length was about just right at 4 miles, which is good. The approval rating on those 7,000 averaged out to about 92% approval rating. So the people who are riding are liking what they're experiencing. Passengers per service hour was about 4.2, which is normally on a demand response system like this, we usually are about 2.2, somewhere in that range, so 4.2. So I also ran these numbers in comparison to the pilot project at Fort Cavazos, just to kind of see. And again, these are really, really early numbers. It's just a peek under the tent. But we're actually, in terms of ridership, if you compare the first week of ridership at Fort Cavazos to the first week here, the urban region is trending a little bit higher than what Fort Cavazos even did. And that was a moonshot. I mean, that was an incredible success. So I'm very confident this is going to work, despite the article that came out. But we are very confident it's getting better every day. There's still, we dropped some balls, granted, and I'm sure we will drop some more. It is a totally new system. And I think our original projections were that we would probably double our ridership. I think we will still probably do that or even more. So our target for the first 12 months is to increase ridership to about 650,000. I think it's going to happen based on what we saw at Fort Cavazos and what we're seeing in this first week. So I talked to Urian. Urian asked me to probably come in and do a PowerPoint presentation later on, maybe after, say, a month, when I can give you some real statistics and real analytics, not just a week's worth, but really where we've had a chance to look at the service, tweak the service, see if we can get it into a more optimal area and go from there. So we'll do that, but I did want to at least try to communicate. You guys are stakeholders, and I wanted to give you an update. Don't get too concerned over that one article. And we did have a lot of missed calls. I mean, there were people online for 15, 20 minutes trying to get through, and we just couldn't get to all those calls. And we're still having a lot of calls, but we're also bringing in more people from the contractor. So, questions?
Did fund marketing folks ever get in touch with you guys? I know I had tried to.
Yeah, I saw your email.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a couple of other emails on there, but I personally didn't talk to anybody but Mercedes or somebody else.
Okay, I'll follow up with them. They call them content runs. The marketing department, the downtown coordinator, they'll take their phones, go out to lunch, and post it online, and in an effort to promote downtown, promote local businesses. And I think the idea is one of their content runs could be, let's book a microtransit. And instead of going to lunch downtown, we'll go to lunch somewhere else. But I want them to coordinate with you guys because recognize your drivers may not want to be in the video or have their picture. So respect that.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted them to get in touch, but I just haven't closed the loop.
Okay.
So I'll follow up with them.
Okay.
We want to support you guys.
Yeah. Anyway, we're excited. It's very different. I think it's going to answer the mail in a lot of ways, fill a lot of our gaps that we've had, that we've taught for years with this. I think it's going to be very successful in the end. Okay.
Thanks, Darryl. Anybody else? All right, with that I have 10:29, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.